right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Drive Time Series 2. And I'm delighted, absolutely thrilled to be joined by our next guest. It is Donovan Dyer with us. Donovan, how are you, my friend? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm doing very good.
Fantastic. Now, Donovan, if you haven't seen these, what we do, we like to interview people from all backgrounds in motorsport just to find out what makes people tick. What is it that gets the juices going? What is it they do in motorsport? And, of course, to get their opinions on the hot topics that are happening in motorsport. So, Donovan Dyer, very first question. For people who don't know what you do, how you're involved in motorsport, first question is, what is your involvement in motorsport?
I am a professional esports driver and racing driver in real life. So I'm signed with a team for lots of esports races like British F4 that has been, because esports has been rising up in the world.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
So I've started like making my move over into esports as it's more accessible for a lot of younger people.
So did you start then actually racing proper, like real cars out on the road, racetracks, and then moving to
Yeah,
esports that way?
so I started in outdoor karts. So I made my I guess my name in outdoor karts, and I progressively made up the ranks into racing cars, and I got seen by esports team and had the opportunity to go and have chats with them and then get signed with them for this year.
Wow, that is incredible. Is the goal then to make it, because obviously the F1 esports is quite big, isn't it? Is that the goal for you?
Yeah. I think any like big competition, so F1 esports is definitely a goal. And so it's like McLaren Shadow, where you get some amazing opportunities for the amount of money you put in.
Wow, that is incredible. So what sort of differences are we talking about? You mentioned money there. You've also been karting. We know it's not cheap. We know motorsport isn't cheap. What sort of cost differences are we looking at? Do you just need, forgive my ignorance, do you just need a decent computer and a decent setup to do esports racing? Whereas, as we know, with karting, there's travel, there's fuel costs, there's the actual kart itself, race entry fees. What sort of difference in cost are we looking at?
Yeah, I think esports is more accessible because it's more of a one-off payment. Because it might seem expensive to begin with, but for like the times you have to pay for testing and stuff like that, in real life, you can get it for free on esports. And I think it's very accessible for younger people, especially who don't have the money to work up in the ranks. Esports is a good way to start from the bottom.
Yeah, it certainly is getting bigger and bigger and more popular, isn't it? Let's go back to car racing. Did you follow the UK club scene at all?
Yeah, I've had some involvement in some UK clubs where I've been a steward or a marshal.
Brilliant.
So I'm quite well versed in some of the politics and stuff behind that.
So how strong do you feel the club racing scene is in the UK at the minute, trackside?
I think it's quite strong, especially with some of the smaller some of the older championships starting to come back, such as like Formula Ford or classic touring cars, where they're kind of like outweighed, I guess, by modern stuff. But now, as they're like people are realizing how good racing is back then, that they've kind of implemented them back. So I think the UK scene is definitely growing more and more every day. And I think clubs are starting to work together rather than just like be on their own.
Yeah, it's very well said that, actually, Donovan. Personally, I'm very close to the classic touring cars. I do the presenting of Full Throttle for them. And we had the Super Tourist this year, which was incredible. I mean, you're a young man. You won't remember the Super Tourist, but when I was growing up and you had Ricardo Rydell and co and John Clennon and all those, that was when it was top notch. Now, let me ask you another question. And we've gone from club racing. Now we're going to go to the elite level of motorsport, an area of obviously that you'd like to get involved in. Of course you would. Who wouldn't? Let me put this one to you. So Formula One, Formula E, IndyCar, NASCAR, World Rally Championship, World Endurance Championship. There are others as well. These are just the ones that I've just picked out at the top of my head.
Yeah.
Which, in your opinion, do you think offers the best all-round value for money for fans, for sponsors, and for career prospects? So for yourself, you're a race driver yourself, but you also do esports. Which is a better career prospect for you, realistically, when it comes down to money and everything all in?
Yeah. I think for me, probably one of the most valuable just overall is the World Endurance Championship, because there's so many routes you can take. I think that it's just amazing. And like you're not limited to one class or like one set of like skills where you need different like downforce and just there's lots of like different variables in the World Endurance Championship. And I think for the fans, it's nice to see a mix of different cars instead of the same thing going around.
You know, that is probably the best answer we've had so far. This is, of course, episode 3. We've had Rob Lewis on, we've had Michael Fox, but that is probably the best answer we've had so far. Sorry, guys. But Donovan's trumped you there. Very well answered. What about, let's talk about esports then. What sort of career prospects are there in esports?
I think one of the bigger is just being a professional driver. So getting paid to fly out to big events. And I think being an esports driver is very good to have on a resume as well, because people can see that you're focused on, even if you don't have the money to do real world, you're at least focusing and honing your skills on the virtual. And from what I've learned, as from when I started esports, is a lot of the things you learn in esports carry over. And I think that's very important. So I think esports, just as a whole, like having an esports career is very beneficial.
Can I ask a question about it then? Because, you know, I like to play the Formula One games. I'm not very good. You know, I'd never make it as an esports driver. I'm probably a terrible race driver as well. I've had the fortune to do a few bits and bobs, but I never win. There's that feeling, isn't there, when I played a PlayStation, for example, or other games consoles are available. It doesn't matter if I crash, but when I'm out actually on a track in a real car, it matters. So when you do make that transition from, right, I've been doing esports back into a real car, do you maybe, is there an extra element of fear factor when you're in the physical car?
Yeah, I think because obviously in like simulation, you don't have the risk of cost of crashing and stuff. So you're not going to have identical to real life. But I think getting into the car, the literally the thing stopping you from crashing is your fight or flight. So I think in like simulation, you don't really have that because you know you can reset. But I think if you put in your mind that like you have to get this drive in esports or you can't crash, I think it kind of puts you in the mindset of real life. I think so. It's all about mindset in esports.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I was just thinking about it when I was sort of saying it. I was thinking, well, actually, hang on. You know, you're a pro esports driver. You've just been hired by a team. They're going to let you know if you keep crashing, because it's the same on esports. If you crash a car on the esports, I imagine that the simulation is to try and be as close to real life as possible. So if you lose a wheel, you can't just be like, oh, I only lose 10 seconds whilst I just put the car back on track, off I go. You're out. You are out the race. So it's very much like, well, you keep crashing, so off you go. So you do have to be as on it and as concentrated as if you are actually at Brands Hatch, physically going round and round.
Yeah.
Well, let's bear esports in mind with this next question then, because it is a growing market. I do follow the trends quite closely. How do you think the landscape in motorsport, from a physical side, the actual physicalities of motorsport, going to a racetrack, Formula One, club racing, all of these things, and esports will look in 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to grow a lot, especially with a lot of bigger companies realizing what they can get out of motorsport. I think in 5 to 10 years, the whole platform of motorsport is probably going to be one of the most beneficial platforms in the world. Not just for people, but for companies, for drivers, for like just anything. Motorsport would definitely be one of the bigger things out there. Because I know like a lot of things now is like retail and like housing and stuff like that. But I think for what you get out of motorsport and the money you spend and the visibility you can get for your company or just a person individually, I think in 5 to 10 years, it will be at like a massive stage.
I think that's really well said, actually, because I think accessibility is key, isn't it? When we think of sponsors, for example, they're not paying to stick a logo on a car anymore like they might have been doing. They're paying to have a logo on a car, but they're also paying to have access to the team, to the drivers, to the headquarters, so they can bring their corporate clients down and catering, all of these things. And actually, motorsport is a great place to do it, isn't it? Because you've got such a big venue to be able to do that.
Exactly.
Donovan, let's let's talk about you a little bit more, Sean. I think it's fascinating, actually, the esports and the karting side of things. But we obviously know you've just been signed to an esports team. But what else does 2023 hold in store for you?
So I'm looking to go into Formula Fords for my 2023 season.
Amazing.
So we're looking at a few teams and we're looking around the paddock. But so my esports team is helping me get funding as a part of the esports to really show how esports can carry over into the real world. So we want to have the dynamic of me being an esports driver and a real life driver to really show how they both connect to each other and how they're just not one singular standalone.
That is such a cool story. How do we find out more about you, Donovan? How do we follow you this season? Because I think people are going to want to keep track of your progress.
So I have a website, Donovan Dyer Racing. I also have Facebook, which is the same tag, and Instagram, which is donovan.dyer, and I'll be posting a lot more updates on esports, especially as the season starts. And I just can't wait to really experience how esports and real life racing connect to each other.
You know, that's fascinating. That is going. I'm not just saying it to be nice. I genuinely mean it. That is going to be fascinating to watch. What we'll do as well, the website, Donovan's website, is in the link of this video in YouTube. So you'll be watching this on YouTube. Just click down in the description. Donovan's website is there. Do check it out. Make sure you follow him on Instagram and Facebook as well. Donovan, we always ask this question. It's a very, very important question. Not only are you a superstar race driver, you're an esports superstar as well. Very well spoken as well. Sponsors delight, no doubt. But this is the most important question you're going to be asked this year. Tea or coffee? Which is better?
Oh, that's hard. I quite like iced coffee, so I'm gonna have to go with coffee for this one.
Good. That's 3 points to coffee now. That is the right. Mate, let you off with the ice bit, but coffee is the right answer. Okay. Donovan, thanks so much. I really do appreciate you coming on. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. Like I said, everybody, please do follow Donovan on Facebook, on Instagram. Like I said, the website is in the body of this broadcast. Whatever you're watching, do go check it out. What a story that is. Not only is he racing esports this season and looking to race on trackside as well. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. Donovan, thanks so much for watching.
Thank you for having me.
Next Drive Time episode 4 will be released tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. And of course, until next time, drive safely.